Can I get a roll call, please?
David Smith.
Randy Thomas.
Make sure we use our mics. Thank you, guys.
Thomas.
David Smith.
Carl Granzo.
Calvin Higgins. And Sarah Coates. Okay, will we please stand for the pledge of allegiance? So our first agenda item is any changes to the agenda that we'd like to make. Do any of the commissioners have any changes to the agenda?
No minutes.
And I did note to Sharon that the minutes were not included. If you know for next time, David. And then I skipped a little piece. I'd like to make sure that everybody here tonight silences their cell phones before we proceed. And that includes Commissioner. Okay. Yep, I need to do an action item, the approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Stay tuned.
I'll second that.
Charlie.
And Carl Granzo seconded it. Okay, do we need a vote, Sharon? You guys made me really.
You can
nervous
just go all
tonight.
do and all. You can just all in favor and all opposed.
Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
So that's a pass. So now I'd like to make any citizens comments, there'll be their comments pertaining to any of the agenda item tonight. Do we have any comments from things other than what's being presented? No?
I did.
That comes later.
Reading about the lot itself.
Yeah, that comes later. So this is any comments that anybody might have or want to speak about other than what's being presented tonight in the hearing? Nothing? Okay. No citizens comments. I got all my sleeves for this. You guys ready to listen to me talk on it? Okay, no public hearings. Okay, so public hearings, these proceedings will be recorded. Hearings will be held in accordance with the land use procedures required by the city and the state of Oregon. The planning commission decisions must be based on facts. There's applicable approval criteria listed in the staff report. These are the criteria the planning commission must use in making its decisions. All testimony and evidence must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria which you believe applies to the decisions per ORS 197.763. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city and parties involved an opportunity to respond to the issue would preclude an appeal based on that issue. You must comment either in writing or verbally during a public hearing, which is why we're here, in order to have a standing for any appeal. Any proponent, opponent, or other party interested in a land use matter must be heard by the planning commission, may challenge the qualification of any commissioner to participate in such hearings and decisions. Such challenge must state facts relied upon by the party relating to the commissioner's bias, prejudgment, personal interest, or other facts from which the party has concluded that the commissioner will not make a decision in an impartial manner. The hearing will proceed with the staff report, followed by the applicant. After that, the public hearing will proceed with speakers cards, which is the sign-in sheet. First for the proponents, then the opponents, and then any neutral parties. The commission may ask questions after each speaker. The applicant will be given a final opportunity to review the testimony or any evidence. Any written testimony provided to the City of Lakeside Planning Department concerning the public hearing item were required to be received by the city at least 2 hours prior to the start of the meeting tonight and to be distributed to the Planning Commission. Written testimony was also posted to the City of Lakeside website and made part of the meeting record. In order to provide verbal testimony, citizens must sign in using the sign-in sheet on the table in the back of the council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. We ask for your address on the sign-in sheet so that we may provide you notice of the city's eventual decision in the matter which gives you standing for any appeal. Testimony not submitted in compliance with the above procedures will not be included in the record. For those that are providing testimony in person, when I call your name, you'll be invited to come up to the mic at the podium. I would like you to state your name and address and begin your testimony. If participating remotely, I will call your name and you will be unmuted and it will be your opportunity to speak. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. Once your time limit has been completed, I will notify you that this case and you will be muted again. Thank you for your cooperation. I need a drink of water. I'm just getting over with a cold, so I'm a little short-winded. Okay. With these instructions about the public hearings out of the way, I would ask if any commissioner wishes to disclose any conflicts of interest, declare a potential or actual bias, or declare and discuss ex parte contacts the commissioners may have read, heard, or otherwise received after the land use application was deemed complete. Commissioners, make any declaration if any. Now is the time to speak.
The only other thing is we drive by that, site every day.
I know him personally as a friend,
That would be a bias.
so, I don't consider that being an issue. I mean, we know lots of people here and like that come in front of us, so. I can be professional and not, and separate the professional from the personal.
You have anything there?
To people that are here, for the commissioners. I know that as commissioners, having certain things, I too, of course, drive by there to get home. And any other connections with, the applicant, has been, in many ways, I know that we've had different times when we've had, the applicant here for a few meetings to prepare for this scheduled meeting tonight. And I think that some of the commission is going to dig a little deeper to see if truly they are totally influenced by anything that they say that make it harder for the commissioners here at the table to reach a conclusion.
So with that, any person here tonight during his or her testimony have the right to rebut the substance of any ex parte communications or disclosures or challenge the commissioner's ability to hear this matter. Since we have not declared anything, I will continue on. Okay. So item number 7 then is the application for a conditional use permit, CUP 2024-01. It is at 800 Railroad Avenue, an application received from William Wybrouch. Am I saying this right?
Close enough.
Okay. I'll just call you
Nobody
William.
gets it right, even I screw it up.
With the leasee, signed by Don Linwood, the agent for the property owner, and Dina Hannes. Sorry if I butcher any names, for a conditional use permit for a RV/vehicle storage yard. The property is located at 800 Railroad Avenue, assessors map 23S-12W by 18 BD, tax lot 12401, situated in the general commercial district, regulated by the Lakeside Zoning Code, Chapter 155, Section 155.110. Staff report will be available for inspection at no cost and will be provided at a reasonable cost. All that's not okay. I now open the hearing for the conditional use permit 2024-01. It is 6:15 p.m. Can I have City Planner Henry Healy please start with your staff report?
Yes, thank you. I do have some slides to share.
Okay.
Looks like Sharon has disabled the screen sharing.
No, I
Function.
didn't.
Computer problems, give her a second.
I haven't. I haven't disabled anything.
Host disabled attendee screen sharing. In that case,
Oh.
Sharon, do you have the slides? Can you pull them up there so they can see them?
Is it okay now? I did,
Oh,
multiple participants can share simultaneously.
yep. There we
Yeah.
go. We got it now.
Okay.
All right. You should. Do you see the Holy Smoke title screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. My name is Henry Hurley. I'm a planner at Lane Council of Governments. We assist Lakeside on planning applications, and I've been asked to help out on this application for a conditional use permit, as was stated prior to the staff report. Start out with some history of prior actions. The presentation will kind of outline what's in the staff report. So the application was first submitted on July 11th of last year. It underwent completeness review and was deemed incomplete on July 31st of last year. And then December 6th, 2024, the applicant self-deemed their application complete, compelling the city to continue to process it as is with no additional information. Related to that, the city of Lakeside sent orders to comply with violations on July 1st, 2024. A second order to comply was sent November 18th, 2024. And the order to comply outlines several nuisances affecting the property and demanding remediation. The property owner was given until December 18th, 2024 to address the issues in the order to comply, and to my knowledge, nothing has been done. Notice was mailed of this hearing on January 21st, and it was also published in the newspaper on January 28th. Just for your awareness, the issues cited in the order to comply, there were 4 of them. The first one, which is kind of odd because we're here tonight, obtaining a CUP to legally permit the use on the property. The second one is the creation of the visual triangle at the property corner, removal of RVs that are being stored, and removal of junk that is being stored on the property. This is the subject property outlined in red, taking access from Railroad Avenue and at the intersection of Railroad and North 8th. You're probably pretty familiar with the property. This is this applicant's site plan they submitted. Just note some features here of which they are proposing to do to the site if approved. They are proposing to install security cameras throughout the site, a 6-foot chain link fence around the perimeter topped with barbed wire. It also feature a security screen. The existing gate will be removed and a new 20-foot swing gate will be installed on Railroad Avenue, 50 feet back from the stop sign. Public access will not be permitted to the site. It is by appointment only, and it will be used for tow storage for RVs, and no vehicle dismantling or repairs will occur on site. We did receive 2 public comments. The first public comment was received from 850 Railroad Avenue. This comment was in the staff report because it was received prior to the staff report being republished. The public comment, just in summary, talks about the nuisances outlined in the order to comply, broken down buses, motor homes on property. There's old boats, RVs, travel trailers, etc. There's no fence between the property and the adjacent neighbor that submitted this. Now that the bushes are removed, the comment calls it unsightly. They refer to the vision angle or the vision triangle at the corner a hazard. They state that it's affected their property value, and they say it's a fire hazard and rodent infested. The second comment was received today. And that cited several issues, and Sharon will read that into the record tonight. That commenter recommends the Planning Commission deny the conditional use permit. The approval criteria, there are 4 of them. The first one, it is the site size, dimensions, locations, topography, and access are adequate for the needs of the proposed use, considering the proposed building mass, parking, traffic, noise, vibration, exhaust emissions, light, glare, erosion, odor, dust, visibility, safety, and aesthetic considerations. The issues outlined in the order to comply directly relate to this criterion. The neighbor's letter brings into play the clear vision issue. So Planning Commission may find, given the comments and the issues in the order to comply not being addressed, that yes, the site is not adequate for the use and denial may be warranted. The applicant does propose a fence, which may alleviate some issues, but that fence shall comply with the clear vision standards. The second criteria is negative impacts of the proposed use, if any, on adjacent properties, and the public can be mitigated through application of code standards or other reasonable conditions of approval. So the Planning Commission must think, can the issues brought up here tonight be mitigated through imposition of conditions of approval, or no, they cannot, and the permit must be denied. The negative impacts are well documented in the order to comply and the 2 public comments. The applicant's site plan does offer several features to address the negative impacts. However, consideration of the neglect to act on the orders to comply calls into question if the applicant can truly mitigate against those negative impacts. The Planning Commission must weigh all the evidence tonight and decide if this criteria is met. The third criteria relates to public facilities. The applicant is not proposing any connections to public facilities. They are taking access off Railroad Avenue, and a portable toilet will be on site. The last criteria just states that you can't issue a conditional use permit for something that is prohibited in that zone. Well, a storage facility is not prohibited. It is conditionally permitted. So the applicant is going through the correct process to get legal authority to operate that use in the general commercial zone. So recommendations, I think this one is up to the Planning Commission. They can either approve it, deny it, or approve it with conditions. I've outlined 2 paths that you may consider. If you do end up approving it, you may consider some kind of conditional approval contingent upon them addressing the items in the order to comply, and any other conditions that you may attach. Give them a certain amount of time to rectify those issues. If not, then Planning Commission would come back and start the revocation process outlined in the code. However, given the fact that nothing has been done on the property and 2 orders to comply have been sent, maybe little credibility in their ability to meet the conditions if the Planning Commission opposed them. So therefore, maybe the denial route might be the better option. So denial could look like citing condition or criteria 1 and 2 for not being met. This site is not adequate for the use, and negative impacts cannot be reasonably mitigated. And as proof of this, the Planning Commission may cite the public comments that were submitted, and the lack of any effort on the applicant's behalf to address the orders to comply, which the City of Lakeside sent twice. So again, I think this is up to the Planning Commission. They should consider and weigh all the evidence and come to a decision. I think that's all.
Thank you, Henry. So commissioners, do any of you guys have a question for Henry? This is only questions to the staff. And make sure you state your name, please. Anybody, if you ask away. You don't have to do it in order, just ask Henry. This is only for the commissioners right now. You'll have your chance here in a little bit.
All the rules.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when it's your turn. This is just for commissioners up here if they would like to take Henry's brain on this subject before we move on.
So my name is Randy Thomas. And I have a question concerning the original part of this whole process. Was it properly carried out to just be, in other words, you had it when it started, did it start out in the proper way to get a permit, business license and such to operate a business on that corner?
It doesn't appear so, because you need a conditional use permit to operate a storage facility, and they don't have one. That's why they're here tonight seeking one.
So I'm saying too, Henry, this is Randy again. So when there is a issue and ABCs to me, 101, if there is an issue in the first place, is there a reason to proceed with this hearing until all of the?
That's a
Period.
great question. That's a great point you bring up. I'm glad you did. If you look in the SAP report, I kind of outlined that issue being the conundrum that you have to deal with tonight. Is the planning commission going to grant this permit knowing that all these violations exist, essentially awarding the applicant something, or are they going to deny it because all those violations exist? That's what the planning commission has to decide tonight.
So, Henry, this is Randy again. The issue then comes to part, what is the outcome of this conversation that we're having as far as them pursuing it further, one way or another, how the commission can decide with the right information given us that we can make a logical decision.
Well, I think if the planning commission decides to approve it, they consider attaching conditions of approval, essentially allowing a third order to comply letter, because your approval would be contingent upon them, of course, addressing the items in that letter, the first of which they would have met because they now have a conditional use permit, but addressing the other three and any other conditions that you attach to it tonight if you approve it. If it's denied, it's just denied outright. And there's usually a time period that an applicant has to wait before they can resubmit again. But it would be denied. And if there is a use occurring on that property without a conditional use permit, then it would be in violation of the code again and be subject to enforcement still.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to say?
Not at this time.
Okay, so if no other commissioners have any questions, I would like to move on. It is now time for our applicant to present his testimony. The applicant is William. If you have a statement, a testimony, or presentation, please do so. Come up to the podium and clearly state your name and address for our record, please.
Dealing with some medical issues, so I'm a little slow. I want everybody to understand that going in, if they could. And all of the statements made about the violations are actually not violations by our research. Vision clearance, the stop sign is actually in the wrong place for ODOT. It needs to be moved. If it was put in the right place, there would be no vision obstruction. Yeah, let's see, 155.052. So that needs to be researched, but the reality is ODOT is telling them that the stop sign actually needs to be moved farther out in the wrong place. So LMC 155.113, building and then uses permitted conditionally include number 11, which just states very specifically storage facility. There's nobody living in these. They are absolutely just vehicles and items in storage. People are paying to park them there. We make sure that nobody lives in these things because I've dealt with that before in another yard that I have, and I didn't want to deal with it again. So the only way to get in the yard, and I think that Mr. Hurley already pointed this out, is you've got to contact us. We'll allow you in while we're there so you can do what you need to do. Either get it, move it out, or bring another one in, and then it's locked up again, and nobody has access to that yard outside of that. And they agree to that when they sign our agreement. If you guys want a copy of our agreement, be glad to give it to you. All of the LMC, I'm just gonna state the numbers because they all say LMC. 155.053, the fences, hedges, walls, and other structures. The chain link fence with mesh installed is per city code. Neighbors' hedges create a problem. And that's on the corner of on 8th Street and Railroad that is, I guess that would be south. The intersection actually blocks more view than anything that we put in. If you go stand on the corner, you can't see through those bushes. Okay. Now, if you do that, everything like it's supposed to be done and that stop sign gets moved, then there is no block. It's fine. Thing that we're trying to do here is security, and that brings up another thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is by putting up the fence guards and the screening on the fence, we've actually created a situation where we have more security problems now than if we had at the fence, because people could see through it. Most people don't realize that, but it happens a lot. We've been paying on-site security who walks the property every night. And if you talk to the neighbors around there, you'll find that we have, since I hired that security person who's very good at what he does, he's very diligent, we have not had any incursions into our yard since he was put on the payroll. And he gets paid every month. We walk and check the property. We have cameras, they go off, he walks out, he finds out what's going on. He does not live on the property, he lives off the property and in the yard. It's up to him whether he wants to tell you who he is. But the reality is he actually works for us, okay? 155.060, the RVs, 060, the RVs are storage only. That means no occupied RVs. We purposely didn't put any sewage in, water in, electric in, or provide any services within the yard. It's basically a big dirt lot with a fence around. That's all we want it to be, because if you go past that point, then it becomes a whole other nightmare that we've already dealt with, okay? I would ask that I would let you know that we're probably gonna be putting a self-contained RV inside the front gate, but it won't be for anybody to camp overnight, and it will be just for day use only, and it's fully self-contained, which means at some point you can drive it out and empty if we need to. Also, it will be supporting batteries and all the necessary infrastructure for streetlights that are actually very nice, that we're gonna light up the entire inside of the yard with using solar power only. So we have solar lights or street lights that are probably a little brighter than the ones you have on the street here. They're very nice. Once we get the gravel and everything done, we get the street lights put in and all of that stuff, it's gonna be very presentable. Much more presentable than other yards that might be on the same street, which I'm just gonna say that. I'm not carry that in. Again, no occupied RVs, period, ever, for any reason. We may request to change the cut to allow one full-time security on the property, but only if it is not a nightmare to deal with. For the reality is, I can do it from outside. I don't really need to put somebody in the yard overnight. Okay, I'd like to have somebody in the yard overnight, but if it's gonna be a big major hassle, then I'm not gonna waste my time. We've already gone far enough. I've had that yard now for 18 months. That means I've been paying a lease on the yard for 18 months and I've literally not made $1. I still have several $1,000s worth of work to do to it, including a lot of rock to be brought in, and fencing to be corrected, so forth and so on. We're going to improve the fence. We found out that a good windstorm causes problems with our screening, and it tends to tip it over. So we're going to be upsizing the posts that we put in the ground and the chain link that's attached to that, so that they can stay put and doesn't fall victim to our random windstorms that we get around. I would have 93.05 nuisance. You got to ask a question. Who from the city determines what is junk? One man's junk is another man's income. I make money on this. I get them, I process them, they get hauled off to the yard, they get sold and they're gone. So it's not junk to me. It may look terrible from time to time, but ultimately the goal is to get away from all the older stuff, do nothing but newer stuff, which is what really want to do, I kind of wanted to target California. And required covers on all the RVs that they put in there, so they can leave their RVs over the winter here. Or if they have a house on the lake, they can park it in the yard here, where it's safe and we can keep an eye on it. That's what it's for, okay? Similar uses, store facility across the street, zone general commercial, same as my lot. Absolutely abysmal looking lot. You want to go into details, I will, but everybody's seen it. And it's not worth, I don't want to start a fight with somebody else over their problems with their zone. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, as far as the beginning, in this state, when you lease a piece of property, you ask the property person that's leasing the property, what permits are there? What zoning does it have? Does it need anything special? At the time that I leased this property, I was told it's already got the correct zoning, you can just do what you want. Which is what we did. We only found out later that it required a cut. And I even then, I researched it because I couldn't understand why it would need a cut. Because it's just, again, this rectangular piece of dirt with a fence on it that it's already zoned. Why would I need to have a special use permit for that? I'm not adding anything or changing anything, not putting in, not changing the grading, not putting in sewer, not putting in water or electric or anything. It's just a dirt lot with a fence. You have to keep coming back to it. Just a dirt lot with a fence. That's all it is. Am I going to put cars from my tow company in there? Absolutely. I work with the state police. And that actually opens the door for a lot of useful tools that this city can make use of if we work together. Those useful tools include the removal of some of the crap RVs we have parked all over the place, like that mess that you had out there by the airport for the longest time. I'm glad you guys got that cleaned up. I don't know how you did it, but we can help with those things. And when it comes right down to it, it does cost money to get rid of some of that stuff. But if I'm working with the city and the city's giving me the abandoned cars, which I can make a little money on, then I got no problem just billing the city for the actual cost to dispose of an RV. That's it. Tow out to abandoned, which is where we usually take them. They charge a weight fee. I provide the tickets, the necessary invoices, submit it to the city pays me when they want. And that's the end of that. Well, the work those kind of deals, we can even change that deal around and sit down and have a conversation about it. Well, I'm here to work with the city. Am I a tow truck driver? Yeah, let's face it, I am. I'm like a biker with a pocket pencil protector. A little bit rough around the edges. People push me, I tend to push back. And I apologize for that, and I'm here to tell you that I'm not pushing against this city any further. I want to work with the people that live here, not against them. Okay? Last thing I want to point out is that whole area over there where all those RVs are, right on that corner, that little RV park, they don't have any parking. None. I mean, they can stuff one car in next to their RV and that's about it. So we have a plan that's going to help that. We're going to go ahead and gravel all that other side because that piece of property on the other side of the road there with the tree and so forth and the fence that I put up on railroad is actually private, which means I can gravel the whole thing. I can mark parking spaces and I can issue parking permits to the residents that live there. So they come home, have a place to park. That's never without question. If somebody in a big sign say, don't park here if you don't have a permit. If somebody parks without a permit, they get towed into the yard and have to pay a fee to get it out. And we free that parking space up for the people that live here. That helps that corner do better than it's doing now. Gives them a little more room to wiggle around. Like make those things happen. What I do, I'm really good at it. So I don't know how it all got started. I don't know how it went south, and I'm quite sure I'm probably at fault for a good share of it because that's kind of the bullhead kind of nature that I am. But I'm here to tell you that that's not the case anymore. I have my own issues going on with a 91-year-old mother that I'm caring for, plus my own medical issues, was just recently in the hospital for 5 days. Not gonna expand on that, but that's all good now. All right. Let me, Glenn, give me just 1 minute here, because my brain's a little slow. I wanna go through this stuff.
You're okay, go for it.
If there's something I missed. Yeah, I did not know that that gate, where it was when I showed up, wasn't allowed there. Okay, so I put that big fancy roller gate in. It cost me a lot of money. And then I had to move it. And then I paid somebody in town here $800 to rebuild that curb. First person that drove across it crumbled into a pile of rubble. So then I had to hire another company, a real contractor, because I was trying to use somebody local. And it cost me another $1,000 to have a curb put in to replace the one that I took out for the county on 8th Street. You know what I'm talking about with the little, like that little curve where the water flows that keep people from parking there. And so we had to re-repair that again. So I'm $1,800 in just that little piece of asphalt. Plus, I would say 18,000 in the fencing materials alone so far. Not to mention another $8,000 or $9,000 in rock. That rock is getting really expensive. So I got a lot of money invested in this. I got a lot of time invested in this, and I'm halfway through my lease already. And like they said, my pockets don't have anything in them. I need to fix that. That's what the whole point was. Make some money on the lot. High quality LED, weeds and growth. I don't know if you've noticed, but there is actually a contractor that comes there every week, like clockwork. Local guy goes in, he gets into the yard, he mows all the grass down, he keeps it all down low so it's not growing through the fence. If you notice, there's no weeds growing there. There's a little grass, but it's only about that high. And once we get our rock put in, that will disappear. So that huge, what's the best word to use here? That sat there for years. There used to be a wood sign on the outside of that fence. I don't know if any of you remember it. But it had a phone number on it, and I dialed that phone number for 3 or 4 years and kept leaving messages. And finally, to get a hold of the person that owned that property, which you all were having problem getting a hold of as well, I started sending certified letters to the last known property owner. I went down to Coquille, found out who owned the property, and then they finally got mad because they told Don to come talk to me because they were tired of having to go to the post office and pick up these stupid letters. That's how I got it started. So now on top of building for myself, I'm also cleaning up what could have been, but it wasn't, a huge firestorm rolling down that whole block after wind was blowing that way. Because a lot of that stuff was this high. And that bush that was in there, that stuff is burned like just, you know, nothing is tomorrow. So that's gone. That fire hazard is history. So you have a fence that looks nice, or you can have 6 and 10 foot tall bushes with big weeds growing out of them that look like crap. You have to decide which way you want to go with the city. Okay. A while ago on Cyber, you know, that secondary fence and screen yard we created inside the main facility. Yeah, we're gonna do that. That means we're gonna put a secondary fence inside or just the tow vehicles, so they're separated from the RVs. And the ultimate goal is at some point, 68 years old, and I'm not gonna be driving those tow trucks that much longer, which means I need to have an income. And it's gonna be that storage yard and selling those spaces on a monthly bill or yearly. Okay. Get this through here. I think I pretty much covered most of it. I would be glad to answer any questions anybody has at this point. You lay it out there. I don't hide or run from any of it. So if you have a question, let's hear it.
And that's actually really the next thing I was gonna ask, is if any, the commissioners have questions for you.
I do.
Okay,
And it might sound silly, but I just kind of give me, when was the last vehicle accepted at that yard?
When was the last vehicle that was accepted in that yard?
Yeah,
Well, I've been ill, so I haven't been doing much towing at all, probably 2 or 3 months at least.
the last vehicle for towing.
Yeah, now, when I get going again and start working again, there's gonna be more. Okay,
So in the meantime, this yard that you're working, is it what you had the application for, a towing slash storage yard? Or was it,
it's always gonna be just storage.
so the application
Yeah,
that we accepted was based solely on it being a storage yard?
that's correct.
Now,
Like I said, no working on vehicles, no disassembly of vehicles. They come in, they get hauled away. That's all.
so before, and this was probably just rumors, and we all like rumors.
So there's tons of those around here. I can
But
find you all kinds
when
of-
we, it has been by a few people, was that the original idea was to, as we were looking for areas and businesses to enlighten and to uplift the city
Mhm.
and looking for premier things, we were led to believe, or was led to be by several, and I don't get around a lot, but when I do here, was it's gonna be for the higher end RVs for storing, while the people, are here in town, or whatever, they park their high-end RVs and they're protected an area, and that's what I thought, wow,
I could see how that. would be
Lakeside can
twisted.
do it,
I could see how that would be twisted into that kind of a deal.
right? So,
But it's still just long-term storage, even if
Right,
it's only,
so-
they can't get past me.
so the idea, when you were over there at Tree Acres,
Mhm.
you had some big old buses there. Now, are those owned by somebody?
Me,
Okay,
those
so,
are my personal projects,
so how many buses there are there?
3.
3 of them. Okay, I don't think that matters in my whatever you do.
Actually, 2 of them are gonna be sold and they're going away. I found a guy on the East Coast and wants both of them. One's a flexible. I'm a bus nut, okay? I'm big time with bus. I got a 1954 40-foot bus that came from San Francisco. There was 78 of them built originally. And I have one of only 2 that are left in the country.
All right, well, I'm glad that they're yours. I thought that was gonna be something that I saw there for many
We are not
years
expanding the bus.
behind the.
Already have humanity.
And then the idea that this, when they came in, I think it squelched everybody's,
Mhm.
because the main thing we don't need is the first thing people see.
Right.
Coming to our already hard to entry appearance of our
Mhm.
city, to see from the beginning of coming in off of 101, which is junky, to come down to this area, which is more, it set the vision of what we want as the city to
Right.
create a more recreational, residential retirement area.
Well,
So,
it's not gonna be residential or retirement or anything like that.
well, I wish it was, because we
Yeah.
could use more of that.
It'd be nice,
But
but
the
you know,
idea
who
of
has the
your-
money for that?
But the idea of your application and the way it was done and the way it was not done properly, that's where my issue lies,
Right,
was the procedure in which this particular application was. I've been in business for 52 years, and I've been in businesses and other things that have helped out, and I know that if I did not follow the situation, I get fined heavily, or I don't open my doors.
Yeah.
I can't be headstrong to, well, it goes to everybody else, but not me. And what it does, it sets a sour tone within the
it's
city,
our tone.
which what you've done is created a issue that no matter what you've done at this time, doesn't set right. And I know right now, after all the stuff you've been seeing, you're seeing everything didn't quite work, and now you want to come in and you want to clean it up.
Well,
So as a commission, plan
I want to
commission,
finish it up, not
Well,
clean it up.
well, clean it up as far as your applications
Right,
are,
right, right.
to keep the legalities done. I know your plan sounds great, Brand, I hope it works, I wish it would, it's just what it says with us, and I'm gonna probably speak highly, you can tell me, no, Randy, I don't think that, is just the way the whole presentation was brought. I don't think we as the planning commission had the opportunity to say, Bill, we wish, if you came here, I think would have been a different thing. It's like the present's already open and we can't play with it because it's already open. So right now, That's a big obstacle.
I understand.
Okay, so that's what's gonna happen with all this. And also the residents around the city, that is the area that's gonna be opposed, are also gonna have the same thought too. So we don't do it on purpose. You could have been someone else. It's not we're all picking on you. It's just that the procedure in which it was done went against the whole thing of everyone else. It goes to the point, well, if he did it, how come I couldn't do it?
I would ask that we just learn how, and I'm gonna work harder at this than anybody in this room, work harder on getting along with each other so we can both benefit.
Well, we all want to get along and we definitely do not we want things happening. What guarantees and what assurances are going to be laid out in that?
Well, we're gonna meet everything I wrote into this.
And I'm sorry I took it the time.
No, you're okay. Okay, any other, Carl?
Your stop sign. It's sitting back about 20 feet from the intersection.
Right, right.
Where does it belong? Where does
It's
it belong?
supposed to be according to ODOT, it's supposed to be up on the other side of that sidewalk. Okay, and if you actually pull up to that sidewalk, you have clear vision. Where you don't have clear vision is across the street. And if you pull up to the stop sign and the line over there, you literally can't see the traffic coming. If you pull up to ours in that situation, you can see for a while, I can see all the way down the road. There is no obstruction, and if it's set up properly, it becomes a non-obstruction.
Who changes or who?
That would be an ODOT issue. You'd have to take it up with ODOT and make them come fix it. You don't pay for it, that's their job.
Anything
I
else?
do know a few people at ODOT. If you want, I can make a couple phone calls.
That's all I could.
Okay.
So was there an issue prior, if there was not the fencing area, would we have a problem with that stop sign where it's at? If it was just back to where it was originally?
Actually, I have videos, and I didn't bring them with me, but I have videos that show standing there looking both ways. And then walking across the street, standing exactly the same place, just facing the other way, looking both ways. And you'll see that our side, there is no blockage. Even where it's at, it's fine. It really is.
Well, I was just wondering their
And
building.
but if you go across the street,
Yeah,
there's bushes and a fence right up to the asphalt. And
but
it
prior to
blocks-
you being there,
plus it blocks, now, if you look at it, I wish it was a board or something. There is. Okay, may I? Just take a second.
Is there a piece of chalk?
Okay,
Okay.
so basically what you got is you got the street here, right? Okay, this is 8. This is railroad, all right? So now when you pull up to the stop sign here, you're actually gonna be looking at the second lane of traffic coming. So it's completely open. You can see all the way down this way, and you can see, I can see all the way down to the hardware store. But if you come on the other side, you're actually looking at the traffic that's coming in this way, right here. And it's completely blocked from you, but there's nothing been done about that.
the
The
biggest
line
issue,
that sets back 2 lanes, it's clear. Hers across the street is not clear. So it really needs to be looked at and properly mapped so you know what you're dealing with.
can you hear me okay, Bill?
Pardon?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes I know I had to have you closer last
Yeah, I'm
time.
definitely wondering, I can't.
Right, so I want to make sure I don't just flap my lips. Prior to you putting that fence up, let's say 2 years ago, when you weren't even there, was there an issue with that stop sign?
Not that I'm aware of.
So the issue really is now is because you're there and there's an issue.
Right. Well, what's the issue?
Apparently, again, it's the light of sight that people are all
I
saying
would
about.
ask that you go stand there and look.
Well, it's not the point of me. It's just that it's a consensus of everybody who lives here.
I don't have them all.
And as far as I'm not- I don't know nothing about
I don't know how else to put it.
Well, I'm just saying,
Quite
what,
straightforward.
yeah, I don't know if there should have been a readjustment for the window, fence to be
Just
closer
in
in.
the wrong place. I'll see what I can do about finding the actual specs and drop them off.
Yeah, I know.
But the reality is.
That would be probably looking for the city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is,
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
I already have a reservation, I already have a relationship with the county guy for my student asphalt curb. I'm quite sure I can find out. So
Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Okay, I have several questions. So you mentioned that you're gonna be using a self-contained RV in essence as basically your manned building for your batteries, for bathroom.
Computers, yeah, so forth, for printing invoices.
Okay. I believe if I read the code right in my time of being around, I believe a self-contained trailer like that is only permittable if it's for an active construction site, building zone or anything. It's not supposed to be a permanent solution. So do you have plans later on to switch it from a self-contained trailer to say a storage shed?
Yeah, I can do all of that work in my truck out front. So
Okay.
I'm not gonna extend the permit or change the permit process. I will tell you though, that there will be a small building that goes in about this size. That's gonna contain batteries and the connections for the solar panel.
And that's fine because it's under our square footage for building thing. Okay, so my next one, I have several, sorry. You mentioned that the lot is currently dirt and sod. I know that these vehicles that you have over there currently are older, some are dilapidated. What are you doing physically for any environmental factors such as leaking oil, antifreeze, gasoline, even human waste?
Very specific rules. Yes, to haul them away.
Mhm.
The old. And very specific rules that they're empty with the caps off before I'll even touch them.
Okay.
So when they show up in my yard, they have nothing in them.
Okay, and that will also go for any RV sewage,
Yep.
spray water?
Yep.
Okay, so that helped me with that question. And then you mentioned that you've been leasing it for 18 months. How long have you been storing vehicles there in that 18 months?
It's just there.
Okay, I'm gonna keep, I have a whole
Essentially, most
list
of those vehicles came from the old yard
from behind Tree Acres.
behind Tree Acres,
Okay.
the homeowners. But they got put into that yard so I could move my business.
Okay,
And then I got ill, and I've been ill for a while, but we're getting to the point where we're better. In fact, I was just met with the state police today. By the way, I do have a really good working relationship with the state police. They can help with a lot of these problems. It just takes a phone call from me.
I don't doubt you on that. So I have a few more permits or questions here. How many of the vehicles that are over there currently are other clients that you're taking money from, and how many are your personal vehicles projects?
As it stands right now, there's hardly 2 vehicles that we actually charge.
Okay.
The rest is all garbage going to the dump. It just hasn't been hauled away yet.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Once we get them out, we ain't putting them.
more or less right now it's being used as a
We're not
personal
putting them
storage.
back.
Okay, yeah, be careful, it has wheels. Okay, so my next one is, when you went into this lease agreement with the owner, how come, I understand that you weren't told anything that you had to do, you were told it was ready and you could, how come you did not take it upon yourself to do the due diligence before starting
Well,
the,
I think if you dig into
process.
the rules, I'm not really required to do that. I could be able to go by a property manager who's property licensed, knows what it is leasing or doing with, should already have all that information. He didn't have any of it.
well, as a.
Even to this date, I have not met the owner of this property. She lives in Palo Alto.
I've talked to her before myself. No, but as a contractor and a person that owns a business in this town, the first thing I tell anybody, whether it's a client or myself personally, is you need to check to make sure your zonings, your conditions, your setbacks, what's allowed and what's not allowed. And it's kind of a given.
This conversation, Don Linwood. I don't want to, trying to not say bad things about people because it's just a negative energy we don't need. But the reality is having any kind of a conversation about that kind of stuff with him is nearly impossible.
Okay. So my next question is, when you claim that you have brought in rock, correct? How many yards of rock have you brought in?
To the date right now, maybe 40.
Have you, before you started that process of bringing in rock, did you come to City Hall and purchase a grading permit?
Wasn't doing any great,
When you bring in fill, it still qualifies as a grading permit.
pretty sure that. I didn't do anything to change the grade,
Okay,
just covered the ground with rock. And actually, quite literally, it's just a few inches.
And then you mentioned that that strip down between you and the RV park, mobile home park, is private property, but I do believe that a portion of that property is owned by the city. Every street lakeside has a setback on the side of the road up to
You
the
have a
property line.
setback, but here's how it works. Setback goes to a certain point. But if any part of a car is actually on the private property, it doesn't matter if most of the car is on the setback, it can still be removed as being parked on private property.
Okay.
That's how the rule works. And I've been doing this, that's the one thing I've been doing for 30 years.
Okay,
I can know that one inside now. It doesn't matter where you're at, it's always the same.
and then you said something about you had a contractor first do that curb and it failed. Was that person that you hired originally a licensed and bonded contractor?
Nope.
Did you know it's a $5,000 fine to hire an unlicensed contractor?
Anything about it.
Okay.
He was licensed, but what am I gonna do? We're talking about a piece of asphalt.
Okay, that's all my questions. Any other commissioners?
How was the process when you did come in here with our old city manager, Rick
Oh,
Hollenbaum?
well, it all depends. Again, we're talking about things that have been happening around here. Changes in staff, changes in this, people coming in and leaving and then coming in and leaving and then trying to find out information, and then a website that like quite literally my 91-year-old grandmother could build a better one. I know I could do one in about 4 hours and smoke that thing. You know, like, remember Piker Pencil Pocket Protector? I've been writing my own code for websites since God was a child. But yeah, the website's abysmal to get through and find details about it. So it could use a little uplift, bring it into today's world.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, you mentioned that you own the buses, the older buses.
I do.
How many vehicles on that lot do you own?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I own the buses personally. There's 3 of those. The other vehicles are owned by Holy Stone Towing and Recovery, which is my tow company. And they should have been crossed out a long time ago, but sometimes we have to wait a little while because steel prices plummet. And they plummeted, and we weren't getting anything, so we just let them sit. I just found out yesterday, thanks for asking, by the way, that steel is back on its way up, which means we're gonna be humping them out of there pretty soon. And they're all gonna go bye-bye. It's all about the cash, you know, what we can put in the bank.
Now, the rare bus you mentioned, it was a rare one, so you're going to restore it, I guess?
Yeah, those buses, no, 2 of them are gonna be sold. One, I'm building it out into in fact, the bus museum in San Leandro, California pushed me really hard to do what they call reseat the bus. Because they want to put it in their parades and all that stuff. I told them, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'll tell you what I will do. I'll paint the outside look just like we did the bus. But the inside is gonna be completely decked out, and I'm not doing that there. That happens there. I have a great big barn with a fancy floor and all kinds of things. That one. I want to make it into a fully converted.
That was my question also. Where was they gonna go to be?
Yeah, that was
where were
mine
they gonna do that
too.
work?
Oh, it's never gonna be worked on here. It's always my house. But
On a side note, you're aware with it sitting out in the rain, it's doing a lot of damage to it.
I'm sorry,
With it sitting out in the rain, it's doing a lot of damage to it,
which one?
your bus.
The one that I'm worried about is over 70 years old. It's all aluminum. It hasn't sustained anything. That's the thing that you get in it, you're like, wow, no holes, no rot, no nothing. Put batteries in it, the key's right up. It's got a 671 2-stroke Detroit diesel in it, which is just the, use my language and my vernacular, the bad engine of the planet, the one that won us World War II. So I'm really big into the 2-stroke diesel. But that's again a personal thing for me.
Any more questions? Okay, then, William, have you read the revised findings of fact, and do you understand the findings that had been proposed to you? Okay, go ahead and take a seat. So,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So now we will be taking testimony from those who have signed the sheet. Copies of any written comments received, if any, have been distributed to the planning commission. Each person who has requested to give testimony will be called individually. If you are called upon over Zoom or phone, please state your name before beginning your testimony. If someone has made statements with which you agree, please state your name and state that you agree with the comments made. You do not need to restate any previous comments. This is also the opportunity for a member of the public to challenge any commissioner's impartiality. I don't understand that word. Impartiality, sure. So with that being said, do I have any proponents that have been put onto the sheet
Anybody against it?
or anybody, yeah, against it?
No, you're right.
I'm just-
She signed it.
Okay, so then I'm going to call up to the podium, Sherry Kinsey.
Oh, wait, proponents is
Huh?
proponents is
In favor.
in favor of it. So this is a proponent. No, this is probably a
And
proponent,
then,
right?
I don't remember, right, does Sherry have a time limit on this one?
She has 3 minutes.
Okay, so Sherry, you have 3 minutes. Make them count.
Yeah, really. Okay, I don't know if you guys have seen what it looks like when I walk out my back door or my front door.
I'll need
Wait.
copies. Make copies.
We live right next door to it. I don't have a problem with the stuff being there. The problem that I have is, he had asked us before he did that, he said, if I remove all those blackberry bushes, what are you gonna do if I find that your fence is in need of repair? Well, there's 4 or 3 sides of that property that are fenced in, except for the one where they removed all the blackberry bushes, which kept people actually from coming in our gate and going into that lot. But there's nothing, I mean, he took that away and that is what we have to look at. We would like to have a 6-foot fence there that we can't see through. And it's really hard, but the stop sign thing, the problem is people walk down there, they walk between the street and their fence, and they walk there and by the time you get to the stop sign, you can't see because of the trailer that sits there. You can't see this way. So you gotta kind of creep out. And there's been several times when there's a little guy that walks around with a helmet, I can't think of his name. But, he can't, you don't see him coming, he don't stop. A lot of people don't stop there. So it's really hard to see if there's a pedestrian coming that way. So I don't know about moving the stop sign. I don't know if that's gonna help, but, I know it's really hard because of the way the cars park down on each street. You can't see that way. So you have to pull out, and you have to pull out far enough to where you can see around the fence, but see down the street too. I don't know, we have conditional use permit because I take care of my parents. We live in an RV. Well, he lives in the RV, now I live in the house. But we had to have a conditional use permit to even put the trailer on there. So I really don't understand how it can happen with, 18 months down the road, then all of a sudden we're applying for a conditional use permit. It's really hard. And there are people that are complaining, saying that, well, you live in a trailer and an RV on your property. Well, but I have a conditional use permit and I had to come before the planning commission to get that. So, it's just not right.
Can I address that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What happened is, that moved them all in the property, and then he was told that he had to get a conditional use permit, and as Henry explained that he submitted for the thing, then we had the notice of incomplete, and he didn't comply. And then that's why the time has been it's why it's taken so long. Is
Well, yeah, I understand.
so that type of thing, but that's,
I didn't know I had to have one before I could even move into the trailer, but, or even put the trailer on there, but I was just kind of concerned because, like I said, people they can walk right through our gate and they can step right over our little fence there, it's just, like, I don't even know who put it up there. It was there when we moved in.
Okay, so your time's up. Let's go ahead and stay up there. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Kinsey? This is your time to ask.
By your pictures, it looks like they don't cross over from his side of the property. They look like they cross over on your fence, on your side by that fence. By the 6-foot fence, and then the little barbed wire fence right there. Looks like they're probably actually splitting your property line from what I'm looking at pictures. And they're not actually hopping his fence, they're actually stepping over your smaller fence that's probably in front there.
Well, in the front, that's where they
Yeah.
step over. They come right through right through the gate and then they step over the fence. When there was all blackberry bushes, we didn't have to worry about that because they didn't like to walk through those. So, and it's just very inconvenient.
Anybody else have a question?
My name is Randy from the, Lakeside.
The lakeside?
Yes. Sherry, I was curious, what is it gonna take to satisfy the issue you have? What do you think the result should be, as far as a solution?
Well, I would just like to see a fence. He put a fence up on all three sides, but not down that one side of the property. And I mean, he has the lights out there and that's great trust me, when somebody walks down the railroad track, those lights kick on and they go right in the kitchen. But I don't care about the lights, I don't care about any of that, the more people that are there, the more problems there are with the dog barking, that whole situation. So, but we just want a fence there, so we don't have to look at it and it doesn't take our property value down.
So for security reasons, for both you and for Holy Smoke, it would be to both of your advantage, because it would serve both of you to have something built there. One, to protect you, two, to protect vandalism from happening onto Holy Smoke's property.
Right.
Okay.
And like I said, my mom, she owns the house, she owns the property, I'm listed as survivor on there, but I take care of her, she's 86 years old, she can't put that up.
So if the fence is built, you're happy.
If a fence would be built there, I could do it.
That would be okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody on Zoom?
we don't have anybody on Zoom, but I do have the public comment that came
I do
through.
have a question, Madam Chair, about that with this.
Yes.
If we can't ask this person any questions, does this still get entered into the record?
It has to be entered
Or,
to the record.
okay,
Yeah, because it was submitted before the
Yeah.
deadline, it already submitted to the record.
Yep.
Okay, so Sharon, could you please read the testimony that came in this afternoon, please?
Yes, this is written comments in opposition to CUP 2024-01, 800 Railroad Avenue by Robert Ward, Lakeside resident. Overview. The application has not been completed in the manner required by local law. City staff should have rejected it without review. No hearing should have been convened. The so-called applicant is probably not operating a storage company for paying customers, but is likely instead storing his own dilapidated junk vehicles. The staff report provided for the commission is incomplete and contains significant errors of fact and judgment. Should the commission elect to go forward in spite of these problems, there should be no consideration of approval as the subject property is already meeting the criteria for revocation of the permit being sought. issues with application. Application not in compliance with applicable law. The application the application under consideration does not meet the requirements of the Lakeside Land Use / Zoning Code, and as such should not have been considered, and there should be no hearing today. For the application under consideration, the applicant of record is William Wyrish, right? And the applicant is renting the subject property and is neither the owner nor the owner's agent. LMC 155242 states that every application for a conditional use permit shall be made in writing to the city recorder by the owner of the land in consideration or the owner's authorized agent on forms provided by the city. The owner of the property, Dina Hanisch, has indicated via an email on July 11, 2024, that her designated agent regarding the subject property is Dawn Linwood. The application under consideration, page 17 in the meeting packet, falsely states that Mr. Linwood is the owner of the property and fails to stipulate that anyone other than himself is a bona fide agent as required by LMC 155242. Mr. Wyrish has then signed the form falsely indicating that he is either the owner of the property or the owner's designated agent. The application is only acceptable if the owner of the property signs the application form. No party other than the owner can be the applicant unless and until the owner of the property has designated that party as owner's agent for the purpose of the application. In this case, the owner has not signed the application, nor has the owner designated any party as their agent for this application. If you were to liberally approach the application process and accept Ms. Hamlich's designation of Mr. Linwood as her agent, Ms. Hamlich would still need to sign the application and Mr. Linwood would have to be the applicant. Neither of these conditions has been met. Meaningful filing fees for an application for a conditional use permit. He became angry, stated that he would do as he pleased without the required permit or license and left City Hall. The property remained empty thereafter for almost a year. In the summer of 2024, Mr. Ryris transferred the vehicles and materials in storage at his previous location, or previous business location, to the subject property, 800 Railroad Avenue, and commenced the use that is the subject of CUP 2024-01 without the required permit or license in any manner that violates several sections of Lakeside's nuisance land use codes. The history is relevant as it appears that staff is asking the commission to consider granting the conditional use permit in spite of areas of ongoing code violations, with a promise from an applicant to come into compliance afterwards. This would in this instance be inadvisable, as Mr. Ryris has demonstrated a habit of non-compliance. Additionally, the staff report states that the application for CUP 2024-01 was incomplete and that Mr. Ryris informed the city that he wished to proceed without completing the application. While this is the procedural right of the applicant, staff has the duty to inform the Planning Commission as to the nature of the missing information, and so that they may properly consider whether the incomplete nature of this application precludes approval. The staff report for the CUP 2024-01 fails to describe the missing material / information in any way, and this would be inexcusable if the staff report also contained the notice of incomplete application, but it does not. C, application and issuance of conditional use permit LMC 155 point or dot 113 per parents 11 package page 5 staff has offered. This is a conundrum. Should a conditional use permit be granted for a property that is knowingly in violation of the LMC, which is Lakeside Municipal Code? With due respect, this is not a conundrum. LMC 155.246 sets forth the criteria for revocation of a conditional use permit, and the very first criterion is violation of any provisions of the zoning code. LMC 155.246 parents 1. It is insensible that the commission would grant a permit in an instant where the primary condition for permit revocation is already present. 4, removal of junk that is being stored on lot LMC 93.05 parents B package page 5. In discussion of whether the applicant may or may not store junk outdoors on the subject property, staff has suggested that because the land use code allows for storage of RVs and nuisance codes prohibits the outdoor storage of junk, the sections of code are in conflict. The assertion is both false and unsupported by any reasoning from staff. The two code sections are not in conflict. An appropriate reading of the code sections together is that a property owner may store RVs on a property so long as said RVs are not also junk. Staff further misinterprets LMC 93.05 parents B by stating that this code section focuses on materials scattered openly in a yard with no attempt at organizing or operating a licensed business. There is no language in LMC 93.05 parents B that supports this interesting interpretation. The recommendation for approval is inconsistent with adherence to local law. The recommendation to allow 2 months to correct a public safety issue that is easily fixed is inappropriate. The assertion that the failure to comply with a condition or of approval will result in an issued permit becoming null and void is false. This is merely another of the criteria for permit revocation, which would require the Planning Commission to schedule and hold a public hearing for revocation. Consideration of approval criteria. On page 7 of the package, staff clearly indicate that Mr. Wyrick's plan for the property does not satisfy the criterion of approval, LMC 155.247 parents 1, due to encroachment on the visual triangle. On page 8 of the package, staff has failed to consider or discuss whether the proposal requires any conditions of approval required to mitigate negative impacts of the proposal other than code violations, and has not considered or discussed whether there are any such negative impacts. LMC 155.247 parents 2. Also on page 8 of the package, staff states that permanent siting of a portable toilet satisfies sanitary facilities inconsistent with city standards. LMC 155.247 parents 3. Staff have not provided any existing city standards that would allow for the permanent placement of a portable toilet on commercial property. Staff recommendation, page 10 of staff report. Staff has recommended approval without an explicit statement of whether all of the criteria for the approval have or have not been met, and without any explanation as to why an approval is appropriate when the conditions for relocation already exist. Given the absence of a valid application for a conditional use permit, the entirely undescribed incomplete sections of said application, the ongoing violations of both LMC 155 and LMC 93, and the ongoing refusal to bring the property into compliance, it is irresponsible for the Lakeside Planning Commission to take any action other than denial of CUP 2024-01. Did I get it all? Okay.
Bill, could you hear that? Are we able to hear that, what we were talking about?
Yeah, I heard it. I had a comment though.
Well,
You get one.
Yeah, you'll get one here in a little bit.
I lost track of it because I told you I was ill. I can only sit.
Right, so we're just taking it to the point where we recognize that,
Yeah.
we just didn't wanna, we'll provide.
I want a
it.
public comment written into the record, not have the same 3-minute exclusion as everybody is down here giving.
Okay, so, and we don't have anybody else signed up. Okay, so with that, does any commissioners here have a question for staff, which is Henry?
You do have one.
Henry, are you there?
I am.
There he is. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for him?
Just wake him up.
Henry, on the information that was just here, is there a proper definition of junk? Is the term, one man's junk is another man's treasure? Is that applicable to whatever we decide, or is there a definite definition of how we interpret junk?
There is a definite definition, and I believe Mr. Ward references it in his comment. He has it cited from what the code says.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have one. Hey, Henry, this is David Smith. How hard would it be for us to just move a stop sign to clear out the visual triangle issue for ODOT? I mean, could we?
I don't have an answer for that. That's really in the applicant's ball court. Unless the city wants to get involved, and the city administrator should be involved in this discussion, but I don't have an answer for you on that one.
Yeah, because I don't know who owns the streets, city, county.
I don't think anybody knows who owns the street.
County owns it.
County.
Anybody else have a question for Mr. Henry? Okay, so with that, Henry, do you wish to respond to any of the testimony received this evening?
No, just note that comment from Mr. Ward came in this afternoon, and I had not had an opportunity to fully look into it and respond, nor do I feel the need to. So no, I have nothing else to say.
Thank you.
So that brings me to the applicant. Do you wish to respond to any of the testimony received by anybody tonight? Okay, go ahead and take the
Can I
podium.
just do it sitting here?
Sure, yeah,
I'm gonna respect the fence between our tree and the yard.
yes.
I have no problem putting up a nice wood on see-through fence for her, just to mitigate her property problem.
Okay.
And it'll be supported with chain link behind it, so it's strong. If that works for you guys, I got no problem. I wanna meet everybody's need here. So 6-foot fence to me is just a 6-foot fence. But a nice wood 6-foot fence that matches the wood that she's using, of course, it'd probably make her property better. And I got no problem with it.
Okay,
It doesn't, not that much more.
okay. Anything else for any of the statement?
I'd be honest with you, that guy's stuff went on so long, I lost it after about 3 or 4 minutes. I couldn't follow it. I'm dealing with some issues that caused me to have some issues with ammonia in my brain. And I think that we need to look at the rules. You know, so it's like 3 minutes, like everybody else gets for public comment.
Okay,
No, I'm fine, thank you.
so commissioners, do any of you guys have a final question for the applicant?
Can I speak to? mean, I didn't.
Oh, he
know
never
I
got
signed
on
up.
board.
If you weren't on the sheet for the start of the meeting, I can't.
I did not know I had to sign that, so.
In the huge lengthy speech I was forced to be given tonight, I did state that all persons had to be signed up at the start of the meeting. I'm sorry.
It's the chair.
I mean, if Sharon says it's not against any rule, then I have no problem. But we're really more in the response versus recommendations. Do any of my commissioners have a problem with letting him speak?
I like to hear,
Okay, Randy?
I like to hear, and then
Okay.
my response.
Okay, go ahead and take the podium and make sure you state your name and where you live at, please.
My name is George Parker. I've lived here in Lakeside for about 8 years. I live out on Ninth and I call from Sherry, I'm the security guard for him at the moment. I just want to say the benefits of that has been remarkable because I've kept a lot of people off the railroad tracks. And behind Sherry's house, they've been back there and I've run them off more than once. And I've got it now where they don't come down railroad and hang out over there like they used to do. I think that's very beneficial, and I dig it that Bill's giving us parking over there, because that's right on the alley behind the fire department. And there's a lot of cars that block that alley all the time, and I have to ask, please don't block the alley because of emergency situations. We don't need it blocked in any way, shape, or form. So when Bill giving us parking over there, that's a huge benefit for the Lakeside Mobile Home Park, and I'm hoping that we can all resolve these problems, because I've been like a community watch too, and I think Sherry's seen me out there.
Yeah.
I think some of you other folks have seen me out there, and I look at Lakeside, I like to see it multiply and do good. And hopefully that we can all work together and make these things work out where it'll be a lot more beneficial for everybody in the community. So that's all I have to really say about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anybody have a question for him?
I need him to sign that.
Okay,
Yeah.
real quick, I'll even let you have my pen. Thank you very much.
All up and everything from the horseshoe buckle.
We'll never forget the horseshoe debacle.
Volunteer, and I still will, as much as I can, make this place a fine community for all of us.
Well, we appreciate all that. You all take yourself here. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so, staff's response and recommendation, that'd be from Henry. Henry, what's your response and recommendation?
I can pull, I'm gonna share my screen again and pull up the last slide.
Okay.
And it's really in the planning commission's court. So either you go the approval route or the denial route, and I've outlined some things for you to consider, whichever one you choose.
And
Henry, did you put up the slide?
I did. You don't see it?
No,
no, we just
You
see you.
Oh,
and I didn't.
Okay,
change
let me try.
any-
I will try that again. 1 minute. There, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Better?
Yes, there we
Yes.
go. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Can you read that?
We're all blind old people, Sharon.
Okay, would you like me to read it?
Yes.
Or
please.
Henry, do you want to read it?
Go ahead, Sharon. If you're there, you can
Okay.
read it all.
Yes, I read it.
Planning Commission may either approve approve the CUP, deny the CUP, or approve the CUP, which is conditional use permit, with conditions attached. Approval route could look like granting conditional approval with a condition that within a certain period, the applicant shall address the clear vision issue and address other reasonable conditions the planning commission imposes. If conditions are not met in the allotted period, planning commission would commence revocation process outlined in LMC 155.246, Given the failure of the applicant to act on anything outlined in the order to comply, Planning Commission may find little credibility in the applicant's ability to meet any conditions imposed. The denial route. Denial route could look like denied on the basis for failure to submit evidence sufficient to find criteria 1 and 2 met. The site is not adequate for the use. Negative impacts cannot be reasonably mitigated as proof of the Planning Commission might reference. Public testimony outlines several negative impacts and lack of any effort to mitigate them as shown by neglecting to address 2 orders to comply sent by the City of Lakeside. Staff recommend Planning Commission consider all evidence and come to a decision.
Okay. So now is the opportunity to discuss closing the public hearing and the written record. The Planning Commission may also elect to close the public hearing this evening if the Planning Commission has additional questions that it wishes to hear additional evidence on. The commission may elect to either continue the hearing to a future meeting or may close the hearing but keep the record open for a set period of time, which the public may submit written evidence and argument. Does the Planning Commission or staff see any reason to continue the public hearing or hold the written record open to allow for additional testimony?
I have one question.
Can she ask another question real quick for Bill?
Um,
I moved on past that point.
yeah, she can ask it now because we haven't closed the hearing.
Bill, do you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, knowing that it would possibly create an eyesore to a degree, what made you select that particular piece of property right there at the beginning of where everybody comes to town?
Zoned what I needed it to be, and it was large enough for what I needed to use it.
Do you have any other options that were presented at the time?
I mean, we could go out in the hills somewhere and find something. It doesn't help the city of Lakeside. So during the summer, people are gonna know that's there, and they will be able to place their equipment in there and know it's gonna be safe. And plus, now you have access to the roads going out of town and getting to the parks, so forth and so on. And we'll staff it, make sure there's some way there for them to have their equipment and keep their equipment safe while it's here. The idea being is take it to the yard in Lakeside because they're very good with their security. And they will be safe there, not someplace out on the highway. Maybe the Myrtlewood or wherever else out there, they got nice facilities, but they don't, there's no real security. They just have a fence and you put your stuff in there and you hope for the best. Here, we actually maintain the security, not only for what's inside the yard, but for all the people living around the yard. One of the biggest problems you have in this town right now is that you have a lot of traffic from, I don't know proper terms, so I'm just gonna use my layman's terms, you know, the meth heads and the crackheads. Messing around, starting fires, stealing everybody's stuff, walking away with everything. And that whole section there is hard to get down because we see them, they're a lot less likely to do that. They're a lot less likely to be do crime within the main part of the town, which helps everybody. It's kind of,
Okay, and I believe Commissioner Carl has a question real quick too.
it's just having a presence.
I've got a question for you. It's kind of if and or could you, if you can't get that stop sign moved, would you be willing to move that fence along Eighth Street?
If you can't get the stop sign moved, I'll give you your 45 degree. That's what they're
Because
asking
I
for,
don't-
to cut off at 45 degrees so you can see it.
Yeah, I don't want you to lower the fence because that creates an eyesore.
Right. So I have no, you know, if it comes down to that, I will lose space that I can sell. But the reality is that it's, I think once you do the research, you'll find that there is really no problem. But if it comes down to it, and the ODOT says, oh, no, it's in the right place, then I'll cut the corner. And we'll just call it good and we'll move on. Okay? I'm at that point where I just wanna call it good and move on.
Is that stop sign really ODOT or is it, city? Because railroad is city, right?
Well, yeah, but I think it's actually considered, that particular piece of roadway is actually still county. It doesn't become city until we get past the county, easement, which is actually quite extensive. I
Okay, so
found
the
that out,
county
you know,
easement
that
is probably
stupid
back,
curve.
the county easement is probably back to where your fence
County
is.
easement includes the telephone pole and all that
Yeah.
stuff there.
And I do believe that the county owns from the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So anything from the sidewalk line in,
So,
I just wanted to see down the road when you have to go out and look down to the left-hand side with the cars that are parked there from the city. That is more of an obstacle than anything else on that road. I live there and been there and drive out that way all the time. And I mean, that I have to
there's
do
another way
way
to
out.
look at
It's
this.
going down and it's got.
There's another way to look at
It's
it. Now,
It's on the road.
It's a
why don't we
it's a
just ask
requirement by
DOT
code.
What their opinion.
Yes, it's a code requirement.
okay,
The vision triangle is in our code. It's,
and I've worked in other places, it's the same for Reedsburg, Coos Bay, North Bend, is you have to allow corner visibility.
You do have to remember that if you cut that one corner off on mine, you're gonna be doing it all over town.
We're perfectly fine doing
Well,
that.
because everybody else has got their little corners all blocked off too.
Okay,
So, do we really wanna start that?
okay, so, back on agenda item, we need to make the decision on what we'd like to do with the hearing and our record. So your options are close the hearing, but keep the record open. What else did I say?
Close the hearing, close the record.
Close the hearing, close the record. Open, we can push it off to next month as well.
It's our,
No, you're right.
on these two decisions. What is the best option? What is the consequence of either one or the positive of either one?
well, if you close the hearing, you make your decision tonight. If you want to if the planning commission wants more information, then you leave the record open. You close the meeting and you can leave the record open and you can get more written testimony. There's no more talk. It's
I would
just,
close it.
if you just close the hearing, but do you need to know anything more?
We're discussing it, so it's.
I'm saying if it's got to be closed, if you make a decision,
Mhm.
I would call, close it out and we discuss our issues, right?
Right, because you would close the hearing,
And then we would.
And
make a
then-
decision.
Tonight,
yes, and then you have deliberations, and after deliberation, somebody would make a motion and a second, and then you would vote.
then we would vote tonight. If we choose not to close the hearing tonight, it will be put back onto the agenda for March 6th.
So what more is this? Because basically what we presented was black and white.
Yeah.
There is no other to drag it on.
Well, I think everybody involved here tonight has been drugged on.
Yeah.
18 months.
Not only the applicant, but also any of the testimony we've heard tonight, and everybody's been aware of the situation for quite a while.
And it's not that the city did not drag it on. It was,
It was just the process.
The applicant.
New city managers, staff turnover,
Number of factors.
a number of
Yeah, I
factors.
don't think that had.
no, once you get your notice of incomplete application, it's in the applicant's court.
Okay, then
Is that what you want to close the hearing and close the record, or do you want to leave the record open for? It's only written evidence that goes into the record after this point if we do.
I can-
Probably need to hear more. Just a fine little part based on
So
that.
close and close,
That's what I would say.
I would say that.
close and close.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and close the record.
I second that.
Okay.
It's just the chair would just.
Yeah.
You don't-
Make a motion on it.
Oh,
Okay,
You guys
so,
just-
I now close the hearing at 7:40 5 p.m. and I also closed the record.
And then you,
Do I need to give him the spiel at the bottom of the page?
yeah,
Okay,
pursuant to what the applicant.
I get to give you another paragraph here, Bill.
But he'll still stay here, is he?
You're smiling, is that good or bad?
Well, it's more words. So pursuant to ORS 197.763 parentheses 6 parentheses E, the applicant has the right to submit final written argument that will be included in the record. The submission must be made within 7 days and may not contain any new evidence. The submission must only contain any written argument. If the submission contains any new evidence, the planning commission will reject that evidence and only consider the written argument. The applicant also has the right to waive the submission of any more final written arguments.
And if you just waive it, then they can go ahead with their decisions tonight.
What, do I say I agree? Do I assume?
Well, you have some options. So if the applicant does not waive the submission of a final written argument, the commission will not be able to make a final determination on the application tonight. And does the applicant wish to waive the submission of a final written argument?
Tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so the applicant waives his right to submit any final written argument, so the planning commission may discuss and deliberate on this matter.
Okay, wait. Is that just for tonight or?
Yes, that means that we are gonna settle this tonight and it's gonna be
Done.
done.
All right, let's just do it and see what.
Okay,
I gotta sit back down. It might take a second.
so now is the opportunity for the planning commission to discuss and deliberate on the testimony and evidence concerning this item. We should wait for Randy to get back. All right, keep going.
We can take a-
Yeah, take a little arm stretch.
Yeah, you can.
Cover knuckles. I don't know how long Randy's gonna be.
Oh,
It's cold. You're cold. I'm burning up.
I have a question, though, this is off topic.
I'll talk.
Has the city ever hired a code enforcement person yet? Do they have that?
That's a heated topic, and as a planning commissioner, I choose not to comment on that.
That's what I was gonna say, I'll bring my job.
That would be a comment to take up with your city council and maybe your city manager. Okay, so now that Randy is back.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So now is the opportunity for the planning commission to discuss and deliberate on the testimony and evidence concerning this item. Would any commissioner like to discuss the item? That was a question, by the way.
Yes.
Okay, so David, you would like to discuss?
Well, I believe we can litigate most of the stuff.
Yeah, and this is when you guys talk amongst yourself.
this
It's
is
not,
correct.
it's
Yeah,
not
I-
for the audience.
Litigate most of the
Speak
stuff
up
that-
just a little bit, speak up a little.
Use your mic, David.
You can
Don't we
sit
talk
up
about our amongst
Can't
ourselves?
hear me.
You talk amongst yourself. This is not for, it's between you guys to talk amongst yourself. I mean, it's for you guys.
I think if he's willing to put up the 6-foot fence for the Kennedy, Sherry and Frank. If we can't move the stop sign, God knows why we can't. He's already said he'll cut a 45 there, make the vision triangle. He's adding parking, he's added security. And again, we already have a lot across the street that's a storage facility that has a CUP. You can't give 1-to-1 across the street and not the other one in the same, so.
But we can't really compare anything right now because that person isn't here and we're not questioning their
I'm just
conditional
saying.
use permit.
We can't, we're not supposed to be judging that. But I think if we can litigate everything, him not complying with, not knowing, it states in our ordinances that the city contacts the property owner or the leasing agent. He was neither, he was the renter. He asked the leasing agent and he did comply with a permit, tried to come get the permit 18 months ago.
Well, basically, it comments on, Rob's comments. Most of his, in fact, probably 95% of it was the process. It had nothing to do with any other stuff. If the ones that he basically said were in violation were due to the process. So that all led to the one thing. So I kind of eliminate his testimony because,
I-
it's a unique situation with our change of people, change of management, change of everything else. And misunderstandings and things like that, so, I think we could set new rules right now and start a time frame. I think we do need to put time on when that 6-foot fence is going to go up and when, how long it's going to take to either get that stop sign moved or the corner cut. Huh?
You gotta put the corner in, because that's one of the rules.
That's one of the rules, so
Yeah, we,
Now that the stop signs up where it's supposed to be,
it still has to be cut regardless if it's private.
I think it's in our code, the video there.
I believe Sharon mentioned that even if the stop sign is moved, regardless, it's in our code book that you have to have that 45-degree angle, regardless if the stop sign is moved or not, he still has that. Is what Sharon.
Yeah, yes, you still have to have the vision triangle.
well,
if you move the stop sign, you create the vision triangle.
yeah. You move
So
the
if you
sign,
move it,
there is no triangle, it's 180 degrees.
yeah, it's work better than a triangle. It's not
It
this,
has
it's
to,
this.
it has, every corner lot has to have a vision triangle.
Is it just commercial or is it residential as well?
Um,
So I know in Reesport it's residential, commercial, it doesn't matter, because my house, I had it. I don't know if Lakeside is the same way.
I don't know exactly on that one, but I do know that you have to have a vision triangle and then probably. Mhm.
Oh.
Not sure.
Well, I see the issue of all the other items that were, of the 4 items, with the 4th one being the triangle issue. Now, I don't know how the county responds. It's gonna take, as we both know how county, all of us know how county works. It may take a year for them to move that. And can you afford that kind of, because you can't still, we're not gonna allow it. Here. Anyway, I'm thinking of the amount of, the idea, again, if we can't really move forward until some of these issues are done into the issue. I mean, if we don't, if Dylan has X amount of money, he's not doing anything, he can't really run the business, right? As long as that,
Not our problem.
I know, but a year, if, how long is it gonna take for that issue to have the, stop sign? Is it better just to have the stop sign where it's at and make that, get that angle?
You would have to.
Well, then what would that be? What would that,
If he has the angle, he doesn't have to move the stops.
yeah, if we're looking at the word, he has to do it anyway, then why are we talking about the sign, the most stop sign being worked on?
Why is the stop sign? It's found out he has to have it regardless, the stop sign shouldn't play anymore.
If the stop signs move per ODOT for vision triangles, I did road construction for 20 years. I know a little bit about this. Here's your triangle. You move the stop sign 10 feet, you now have a rectangle, a larger than triangle. So your triangle doesn't apply. It is a vision triangle when there's obstructions. This is no longer an obstruction.
I
So-
I don't think the stop sign matters anymore, knowing that he has to have that 45 regardless. Now the stop sign is not an issue. You can still move it if you want, but now it's not an issue.
Because, you know, I know he was saying, well, if he does it, we might have to do it, then everybody has to do it. I don't think that's the right approach, that he's gonna make an issue of it. If he makes the issue of that, then it's gonna make a longer time by saying, okay, you do what you want, stop sign stays there, you're not gonna be able to do proper business for a year. You must have lots of money to do it. I would think it whatever it took for him to get that thing started, that he would comply and get it. But I'd like to know what the solution is. Where is the end result of this whole hearing? Where does he stop and have him take and do a viable business instead of being out of compliance?
And one of the notes I wrote is, calling out the other lot, but we all know that Lakeside has a history of allowing people to do whatever they want regardless if it's code or not. Regardless if it's him or a neighbor or businesses down the road. Where do we decide, well, do we just allow people to continue that forward movement of, well, my neighbor did it, so I'm gonna do it? Or when do we start actually making people follow the rules as well?
Yep.
And it's not a question of the person across the street, that's something that we, I'm sure is going to deal with, and of course that we'll deal with. And it has nothing pertinent to the issue that we have currently.
Okay.
The issue is what are we going to require of the applicants? And do we agree with how it's been done, and should we grant him the use? Not if his neighbor did it, so why can't he do it?
So.
I have an idea. I'm sorry, I don't know supposed to talk, but.
Now, hold on.
Commissioners,
I'm sorry.
And you guys may want to read that. I gave you a code on conditional use permits. That I don't know if you read it or not, where you have, okay, well, I did a specific code regarding conditional use permits. Because I wanted you to see what
right,
it entails.
look at this as, so I'm gonna put on two hats. I'm gonna put on the commissioner hat, but I'm also gonna put on another business owner hat. Because I know that because Sharon, you were here previously when I was working on my stuff, that if I didn't do as you said, like prior to opening my doors, installing anything, even if I remember, you wouldn't even let me hook up a water line until I had everything, and you were coming down to my lot saying, Sarah, what are you doing? Because in my head, I was told the same thing. It's a commercial property. You don't know what I want. I'm a business. And it doesn't work that way. I still had to follow the steps, or I was reprimanded. And I mean, I get his frustration because he wasn't aware, I wasn't aware when I did mine. But I still had to follow the rules, and I could open my door and start taking money for my business until I had all my permits in order and my inspections and everything was signed off by the city. He already told us that he already has a couple of clients' vehicles that he is currently getting money from monthly, which showed me he's operating his business and he doesn't have the correct permits in order. So regardless of what we decide, we also need to consider that he is currently already operating without the proper paperwork. It doesn't matter the process, how he got there, or if anybody told him yes or no, that was the way it was doing it. We also gotta think, is he gonna continue? If we set these guidelines, say you have to have this 6-foot fence and you have 30 days to put it in, do we know that he's going to actually do it, or is he still gonna be? We need to take in consideration if our guidelines for him, if we do approve it, are actually gonna be followed through, or if we're gonna be back here again. And then we're gonna be in the revocation of the conditional use permit because he didn't follow the guide.
I have to say that, yes, there have been a lot of reckless activities that have gone on in this community. And people have disregarded and done whatever they want. We have some cleanup to do. Have people go by and comply.
And I do believe that before you interviewed last month, we were discussing about starting the process of reviewing those conditional use permits that have already been issued. So if we start slipping now, when we start doing that, how are we gonna handle that as well? So there's repercussions more than I think we realize if we allow things to continue. And I'm not saying everything, like I said, I feel for him, he was not notified. That's not his fault, but we need to look at everything he's done since finding out his steps. If we should continue with this or not.
But I'm also concerned that Don Linwood did. And I asked him why the other didn't, but why did the rest?
Yeah, and I would like to have heard from Don as the representing agent as well, or at least a testimony written on paper. More than, yeah, I said it's okay. just something to Don's on the table in our community. Most of us know Don Linwood. And it would have been nice to hear something from him as well, just as backup for applicants as well. He would have somebody in his favor other than his security guard. So, anyway, somebody else talk. I talked a lot.
Madam Chair, I'm looking at the whole thought here is not deny or deny.
Yeah, those are.
What are the consequences of denying? What, if he got denied? Should that happen? What would be? How would he get out of that, or what's the, okay, let's just say that, he got denied.
Yeah.
How does he get out from underneath?
Well, I believe if I read it right, he could restart the application process. Am I wrong in that?
He could appeal.
To the Luba board.
No, he,
With appeals
If-
to planning.
city,
If the decision is denied, the applicant has the right to appeal to the city council.
Okay.
city council.
And that's the city council. Okay, thank you, Henry.
Now, if he appeals it, does he avoid then paying another $750 to apply?
If he appeals it and he wins, I don't think he'd have to repay,
He-
correct?
Henry, do you,
I don't know, you'd have to look at the fee schedule,
yeah.
and what the code
that's-
says, if
that's true,
you,
'cause
if
I don't
you
know what-
get your
what our fee schedule
feedback.
is.
And I think he's already dumped a lot of money into it, but in my expertise, a application fee is minimal to a profit that could be made if he won his appeal.
So when we deny it, if we deny it, and I'm just talking. He's still,
He has
it's
to-
just the procedure start over.
Yep.
Properly, which would appease the idea of doing it right, instead of doing this piecemeal.
Or he can appeal to the city council and the city
Okay.
council can say, yeah, planning was wrong, granted, or no, planning was right, we're still denying it, and then he just,
Starts over.
And,
We don't want-
or appeal to Luba. But that has to be on, it would, okay, Henry, go for that.
We're a long ways from any Luba appeal.
Yeah.
Does that cost incur on the city?
It depends, the city, it depends if the city's a party to the case or not.
There's a
Okay.
comment made that I had paying customers, I do not.
so where are we standing at, guys? Do we need to keep discussing, or are we ready to make motion?
Or do you want to add some conditions?
Or do we want to add conditions of approval?
I would like to add condition.
We have,
Let's
We
put,
approve it.
let's put a 90-day, get the fence, the wood fence up on the Kinsey's 90 days. Is that okay with your,
120 would be better, yes.
okay, 120 days, can you do the 45 on your corner on the 8th Street, take care of that vision triangle?
I could do that at the same.
Okay.
Or can he do business between, I mean, are you doing business now?
You said you had two that belong to.
There are no customers in my yard that I'm charging a monthly fee to, there hasn't been.
So
Yeah.
you're just, you're storing two people's vehicles for free?
Basically, I have cars that belong to me. And vehicles that belong to me that I actually have to pay to get rid of. So on top of the fact that I've been paying lease payment that were, what, $40,000 into in the last 18 months. I also have to get repaid the vehicle removal fee, so when you just start adding things up, you'd be shocked at how much money I have
I
buried.
just wanna see.
It's supposed to be.
It's not making any money, and I can't start really making
We're
any
talking
money
about it here.
until you guys tell me we're good to go.
Procedure starting again. So that we have clarity, and I have this feeling that you hope to have the feeling that it's gonna be done right. Whether we have comments from the, against as opposed, so that we can get some, I just need to see clarity.
I do, I
I feel messed up on,
yeah, and I think 120 days is unrealistic. That's. It's not.
wait,
I can set fences in the rain, so could he. I think for the Kinsey's sake, they would probably like a fence up sooner rather than later. And I do believe with the visual triangle, with it being a safety hazard, it should be done sooner rather than later. So I am more happy with a 90-day condition of approval if you did approve it versus 120 days.
Well, even if we deny it, he needs to get that stuff done anyway.
But, yeah, that's part of the code, but I mean,
I just feel
you wouldn't have to do the fence. Well, I mean,
he would want to do those anyway, if he's gonna repurpose the application. Do it right.
but he doesn't have to resubmit it right away. He can just appeal to the city council. Only after then he'll hire him. He could be in limbo for however long, depending on everybody's decisions on it. Because who knows when the city council will get him put in, city council could deny him, he could go higher up, city council could approve him with the conditions that we set for him. Yeah,
Right now, it's kind of like he's just operating like for personal storage lot.
yes,
really-
it's not really a business, but the amount of vehicles that's in there that he claims are his personal property or his friend's property, and he is now claiming that he is not receiving payment. Now it's just a personal storage yard versus a operating business in the commercial zone.
But if we approve it, he can start his business back up.
Correct, with the conditions we set.
Yeah, with the conditions we set.
Correct, so right now we need to discuss what conditions will satisfy us, Bill, and obviously his neighbor, as she already expressed that fence, but we need to set a time frame that he would have to do that.
I like the 90 days.
I think 90 days is more appropriate versus 120. 3 months is a good time frame to get things done.
And then the other, I would say the other thing would be, removing what's considered to be junk. Recycling. it.
Well, so you do supplying junk.
We can't define it.
You can't-
Definition.
Did slightly where, or not, maybe not even Henry, maybe is Rob's letter, where junk is more classified as stuff thrown about a private person's yard versus a business. But if he's storing his personal vehicle, therefore it's not an operating business.
Private vehicles are
If
basically
we,
under whole smoke, going company.
Right.
if we determine that the business, all the towing yards, the towing people I know, that's what they haul. They don't have piles of deer, bourbon.
Yeah.
And sheep from, who knows?
And based on
If it was based on the fact of the definition of what we want this use. Going more RVs and a place to store repossessed cars or tow cars to be in and out of there within a certain amount of time. Should have turnover, should get working, so that it does not become a rusted, bulky pile of stuff in there
and
that looks like Sanford and Son.
Sherry's pictures, although she's trying to prove a point of the fence, did prove, if you look at them carefully, there's not piles of scrap metal and tires and whatever. It's solid units of vehicles. And
Well, what I see there, when I first drive by Camp Elvick, was a huge army truck full of metal,
yeah,
and that was,
Excuse me, there's no metal in an army truck, and that's my personal truck.
okay.
It
So
runs.
I'm just looking at the fact,
one point, in time,
yeah,
Randy was.
but I'm just saying one time, as far as, if that's gonna be classified as a place to repossess cars or whatever the car needs to go
Temporary
in,
storage.
and then an area for high-end RVs for what it was meant to be,
At some point,
based on his story,
yeah.
then, yeah.
Well, the
Okay.
other, one other thing.
And Henry, ask if Henry has anything else to
Yeah,
say.
Henry, since we're all yelling at each other, is there something you would like
Yeah.
to add?
So any party that has standing can appeal. So this is just for hypothetical sake. If it is approved and Mr. Ward does not want, he can appeal that decision because he has standing. So
Okay,
it's
so
not just
like
the
I said,
applicant that can
here
appeal.
Tonight,
It's-
she could appeal it. Any of the other neighbors down the road could appeal it as well, so it's not
If
just.
they
the-
have, if they have standing and they can discuss, or they can explain the errors that were made in their appeal statement.
Okay, so far we have a 90-day time frame to install a fence and to get our visual triangle. Any other conditions that we would like to apply?
One thing I'd like to point out is he stated that he would have all the fluids removed from vehicles when they came in, but we're storing an RV, it's an operation. That's not gonna probably drain all their fluids out of them. And so how would?
Well, I know Mass Brothers and other towing companies. I have a friend that operates a tow truck, and I'm sorry about the name. It's called the Happy Hooker. When they pay out these, say you have a broken down car in your driveway, one of the requirements before they haul it away for you is that you puncture the tanks, drain it of the fluids. Same thing when I have demoed RVs. You have to remove the septic tanks, holding tanks, because the junkyards don't pay.
Talking about if you bring your RV in, there's.
Talk about dysfunctional ones.
Yeah, see, and that's one of the concerns I was, is cars leak oil and,
This is gonna be a joke.
but even if he,
Basically, if my car gets paid and got towed in no parking zone, he takes it and puts it in the tow yard. So either we pay for it or we don't. and
how old is
just
your
have it.
car, Randy?
Whether it be an old jalopy in 1910
My,
or my car, is just what I'm saying.
my thing is, I mean, I don't know what
Want it to be hauled off junk.
No.
And hauled in there with no tires.
And I get that, but I mean, even if you're storing a vehicle, say you take your Mercedes S Series, whatever, I don't know cars, and you store it at his lot, but for some weird reason, your car has an oil leak. So now your car, you're paying to store there, unbeknownst to him, is dripping oil, and he doesn't know it till you pull your car out. I
Always know it. We actually carry devices on scene to take care of that.
any environmental impact, because even when I change the oil at my house, I drain it into a pan and I dispose of it properly. And I'm not saying it's anything personal that he could be doing, it's just the nature of the type of property. And I do live next to a property that does something very similar to him. I'm not going to go into detail. And I've wondered for years, I mean, what if that vehicle is dripping and you're contaminating oil? Because I know when you tear down a gas station, you have to dig out the dirt, haul it away for a special landfill and refill with clean fill. So what happens if that property gets contaminated and his lease is up and somebody has a DQ problem?
Well, then we need to have some insurances or guarantees.
That's what I'm
That
wondering.
has like a bond that he puts
Well-
up that clean up.
Henry has.
Yeah, I'm just, so I'm listening to the conversation,
Yeah,
and it's my opinion that maybe the conclusion is this site is not suitable for the use, and that's the first criteria.
I mean, I would have done that with any property. I would have got that with my neighbors because I don't want my kids and my animals, not that he has kids and animals, I'm just saying in general, I worry about environmental impact, especially since you dig 6 inches in the ground around here and you're in the lake.
Yeah, we don't have stormwater runoff.
Yeah, so everything goes.
But again, the
All of those
interpretation-
issues have been addressed already.
the interpretation of what he wants this business to be.
Yeah.
A description of his business.
Correct.
And what was the business license said?
Correct.
What was the definition when you apply for something? When I had my aquarium company, I didn't say, furniture and aquariums, because I was an aquarium company.
Right.
I was very specific what my business plan on.
So are you,
So if he's gonna have this, if his application was applied to be a storage yard.
Right.
Then that's what it should be.
and not towing, temporary towing?
And if that is, you would put that as a conditional use
Yeah.
or an addition.
No,
And if it is a towing, we need to define what towing means. Does he take his vehicles, goes in there and pounds them or whatever it is, and then when he's done, he hauls them to other places to process? So it's like a transfer station.
So we're back on the fact that the application then, by what you're saying, was not done correctly.
I don't know about incorrectly, I just want to make sure if we look at the issue there, is it a towing yard, the definition of a towing yard and a storage yard? for what he's saying.
Cause the president has to play one or the other.
That's because that's the only issue it's right here, I think, is what the conversation should
Because
be.
they're very different.
They are.
They're very different. There's not a lot of room there, so which one?
And he did express that later on he'd like to separate them on the lot. And have his towing storage and then versus his nicer storage. So we
Well, I
can,
just know that if you have a bar and that's what you got to drink in and everything, and next thing you know, 6 months later, it's a nudie bar. And that's not what you wanted, but you know, it's there, it's related. That's what the permit was made for. So it has to be used in the permit in which it was used for, because that's what the business was. That's the application of what his business should be, nothing else. If not, start over again and put the towing and the storage unit into play again.
Yeah, because when you're towing things that have been that, those are gonna be hard. It's really hard to get. Yeah. Because they're a wreck. I have to say that we do actually need a place
On the,
for vehicles for people who live on the lake. They don't have.
Okay. Is that the
Here you go.
application?
yeah.
I'm blind.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, it just says the following questions, and it said that what it was on the application is an RV vehicle storage.
Okay, so nothing about the towing vehicles or the. Okay.
Yeah, just for clarity, and this is all in the record, so it's nothing new. This is what is listed on the application as the use which they are proposing.
Okay.
Exactly.
I gotta explain, Sharon, I'm blind and. I
I
can't
mean,
read.
these are all, this is what he's filled in and
So,
so that's what it should be. It says exactly what he wanted it to be. And he said RV vehicle storage.
Okay. Any other conditions that we could possibly think of?
diaper pads for any, wrecked vehicles, so that will, litigate.
Like the absorbency diapers that
Yeah.
put out right in the bay for like the boats and stuff.
Yeah, have them, any wrecked vehicle that he brings in has to have, pads underneath it so he can catch anything that. Yeah, and that'll clear up the environmental issue.
Carl, do you have anything else to add? Okay, any other discussions?
Again, I'm still just the fact that it was applied as a storage system, nothing else. It doesn't say nothing else, and that's what we're into. We're, you know, whether you want to do whatever he has, it's fine. I mean, I want him to, everybody to be able to. But I think it needs to be done properly so that it can be taken care of properly.
Okay,
Yeah, not have, all these things that, feel not to address.
okay, so we've covered everything, okay, so would someone like to make a motion then, either yes for approval or D for deny, and please state your name when you make your motion.
I'm
And,
David.
My name is-
Wait,
whoa, what is, wait,
Go ahead. My name is Commissioner Randy Thomas, and I am voting to deny the application unless it's used for the purpose of what the app is.
I second that.
and seconded by Colleen. Okay,
Was that motion?
well, you can say it as Randy, you would say it as Randy Thomas motion too.
So I, Randy, motion to deny the application based on it not being exactly what the original was made.
okay, and that was seconded by Charlene. Okay, you guys have me all messed up. Can we do another further discussion or we have remote now?
No, you'd be up for a vote.
And then, is this a poll by you or can I just call for a vote?
Well, you would poll, you would ask each one who,
Okay, so David Smith, what is your vote for the motion?
I will not care, I don't like his motion, so, I would go against it.
So nay? And Randy, how would you like to vote against your motion?
Yay,
Yay? Carl?
no,
Nay. Charlene?
Yeah.
Oh, boy, you guys put me in a tough spot. I'm just gonna say something. Something, because this is really hard. Because in my head, I'm like, well, you know, the man just wants to run a business and he's agreed to meet all these conditional use permit or conditions of the permit, blah, blah. But then I also think, well, the application wasn't done correctly and it should be redone. Just give me a second.
You like the guy. and you like-
Well, and I have no problem with it, you know, but I want to support renewable businesses, but I also believe that it should all be done fairly and in the straight way, and everybody should be treated the same, and all businesses should also hold up to the same rules. Okay, I'm gonna say yay, just because I don't think it was fairly done on the application. So I have a vote of 2 nays to 3 yeas.
Motion carries.
So application denied.
Application denied, but I'm also gonna say if he would like to, he can go to city council and appeal it. So the motion passes for the denial of the conditional use permit at 800 Railroad.
And what's the reason for denial specifically?
I just believe that according to Randy's motion and what I feel, and I'm sure Charlene probably is in the same boat, that the application wasn't done correctly. He listed it as an RV storage, but he's hauling towed vehicles in there. And if it wasn't done right, who's to say that he's going to accept any conditions we would lay before him if we did accept it?
Okay, I will,
And nothing has
Okay.
been followed through and all that. So that's my reasoning, Henry. I could be wrong with the other commissioners, but I'm going to call it. You guys make.
so I guess for the findings, and the final order, were there any, I guess, going back to kind of what I presented, was there anything that you agree with or disagree with that needs to change in the findings?
I agree with a lot of what you said, just the fact that the paperwork wasn't done right. And I feel for the man, but he, as the leasing, should have done his due diligence and done everything to the standards of a conditional use permit or even a building permit before any vehicles were ever moved onto that property, regardless of their personal friends, whatever. Because technically, that's usually how it works. I know I can't build a house unless I have my permits in place. The same thing should apply to a business in town.
That's why we're in such an awkward position.
That's just how I feel about it. And like I said, it's nothing personal. I feel really bad denying somebody the right to run a business. But he still has a chance. He can go to city council. City council might say that I'm completely wrong, which I would accept defeat happily, but I just think he should be held up to the same standard as any other business, homeowner, or anybody else within the city limits and get the applications in first before essentially breaking ground.
Or can he just
Okay.
definitely reapply so that he can just go through the right?
Change the
way-
paperwork.
Change the paperwork and resubmit an application?
I think he could, yeah, he would withdraw he would formally withdraw the application and resubmit under other pretenses, other
And now-
scenarios.
Now that he has all his stuff figured out, what he would need, he could resubmit the application with the proper stuff, follow the right steps and have it done the right way. And if that was the case, I don't think we would have a problem granting it.
Well, we still have the letters to comply where we would have issues
Correct.
because those letters comply ask to remove
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely voluntary if they want to withdraw, but going that route, it takes the pressure off the planning commission to enforce and follow up on all the conditions and puts it back on the property owner entirely.
I mean,
But that's the property owner's prerogative. They have to
Yeah.
voluntarily withdraw their application. They don't have.
more comfortable, I think, granting it if the proper steps were taken, he did his due diligence. Instead of arguing about stop sign, he just went ahead and gave us our visual triangle and he put up a fence for his neighbor. Where it makes sense to fence it all 4 sides of your property versus 3. if he did the proper steps and then he came back and he's like, look, here's the application, I have done everything you asked for, now will you grant it? Everything's dotted, all the Ts are crossed, I worded everything right, I don't think I would have a problem with it actually, but as it is right now, I do.
I wouldn't have a problem if you went back and started over again.
Yeah.
It'd be much quicker. It would keep other people from interfering with his procedure. I think it would be cleaner. I think the citizens of Lakeside would benefit from his putting back into order again.
And
And I think Bill's business would be far more acceptable.
if he came back and did it the right way, he would get that bad taste out of the citizens and his neighbors' mouths and be like, okay, well, now he's done it right and he's promised me this and he's followed through with it. Now I don't have a problem, so I'm gonna quit complaining to him and getting on his case.
Yeah, one point on the withdrawal scenario. So the application's already denied as of right now. So effectively, the same thing as withdrawal is accepting your denial and not appealing. That's effectively what would occur with that. You can't withdraw it because it's already denied. So
It's
if you
already
want to
denied.
start over, you accept that your application is denied, you wait out the
He
appeal
has
period
to.
and you reapply.
And but that's up to him to do so, correct?
Yes.
Yes, but if he doesn't appeal, then it stands, it's denied.
Okay.
Nothing else to do.
Now that I'm all completely stressed out for the evening, I'm going to continue on.
So
So,
is this,
thank you, Henry, you can go about your
is this
evening.
matter adjourned? It's been denied, a motion has carried.
And I just have a couple of things to wrap up, that's planning stuff that doesn't involve you, so you may leave. Only if
If
you
you
want to, you can hang out, I don't care, Henry.
Well, I'm gonna state, so we do have to draft up the findings and the final order. What I'll propose to the planning commission is I can prepare the final order,
Okay.
outlining your reasoning as best as possible, and I can
Okay.
send that to the chair. If the rest of the planning commission is okay with the chair kind of reviewing the findings and then signing off on them if it reflects the planning commission's decision.
But they trust me anymore.
So
then-
staff will prepare a denial final order
Okay.
and give it to the chair for signature.
Okay.
Okay.
Put all the blame on me, Henry, I'm used to it.
No, that's how it goes. Okay. Have a good night.
I'll just see if they do.
A good defined reason would be the four area.
Yeah, and I think we narrowed it down to why pros and cons, and like I said, it just came down to that one. Okay, so moving on, does any commissioner have a report on item that you would like to discuss that is not this agenda item?
I'm looking forward to getting this onto our camping ordinance and then looking at towards our,
I'm assuming we're done here then?
Yes.
Yes, have a good evening, sir.
And we will be sending
I'll
you,
do that.
we will send you a letter with outlining
Okay.
the appeal period. Okay.
Okay, so Randy, you were saying, sir?
and then the places that are renting,
Short-term rentals.
yeah, short-term rentals. I'd like to get into that idea as well and address them.
Airbnb you're talking about.
Yeah,
Airbnb,
it's been
thank
a hot topic almost all summer.
Right, but you know, what I see is it, and here we are, city tax, and that is a major form of income that we can utilize.
But one of the things that you were pointing out is as of currently, there's a vast majority that is not registered in the city of Lakeside.
And also they're not allowed in residential areas.
And they are in residential areas.
And a bunch of them in residential.
It's income for the city though, and people don't have to pay.
Only if they're registered and they are paying taxes. We don't get the taxes unless they're
Well,
registered.
that's what we have to.
But they are also not in the right zoning. That's what I'm saying. This is a hot topic, Charlene, and I'm sorry you don't forget to join us in the middle of it.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have anything that they would like to discuss? David?
No, Randy said it.
You all
wait,
have for minutes?
Well, yeah, I want our minutes from September through now, minus January or December, I think.
And I think Sharon brought this up at the last meeting. Can we have September through November,
I
or
looked-
January,
I'm
February?
trying.
Mine is December's minutes, so Mr. David will leave us all alone about the minutes.
There's so many. But we need more than me. The ones, the last ones that I got done for the city council, I did them on a weekend at home. Because that's the only
Okay,
time.
I'll make you deal. If you get me.
I got you. That one.
Oh,
Can you answer me what? I looked at this last city council meeting,
mhm.
okay, on Zoom.
Yeah.
He was approved, but I did not see where you were approved,
Proof for what?
Chair.
Yeah, I know, that wasn't a thing. That's why I asked, that's why I mentioned it to Randy. I said, how?
I don't-
I don't think that has to be done.
I don't think that's to be done. You guys
Every
voted it.
person does.
I need to bring it on some, what I heard.
Oh, a new person.
It was new.
But as
And
a thing.
yeah. It was just because you guys voted it. It's
Yeah,
not
we
about
voted the chair.
Oh,
We
I
voted
thought
chair.
that council had approved that.
I mean, you
This
can
is
ask
a proof you want.
Well, what happened then, they would have said no to her and had me back.
Yeah, they. Sure. So I'll make Sharon a deal. Sharon, if you get me and David our minutes cut up, I will make you cupcakes or a cake or unicorn sprinkle cookies.
Or you can write it on the backhoe.
You guys-
Yeah. ooh,
Yeah.
I'll take you out in my Jeep, a Elkhorn, and drive you through the creek.
Where's
Okay.
Dennis? I even wanted to help her with the minutes because I thought, you ever done a minute? Ruling form.
Okay.
And they're all on I mean, we have videos now, so that's part of, but I try. If we need more
We
stuff.
can sit down, we're not done.
Usually it's bringing somebody in just to do minutes.
Okay, so is there anything Carl would like to add or discuss? Charlene, anything you want to add?
I'm ready to.
What about a staff calendar?
Okay, so you received your packet, they may be in the folder.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah, and we're gonna be talking about time, place, manner.
Question, is these workshops open to the public?
Oh, yeah, always open to the public and that,
I didn't want to share it on Facebook. It's the full community.
no, they're always open to the public.
So we just won't be taking comments from them during the workshop, correct?
For this one, yeah, and you guys might be, but yeah, that one, and then
Do they feel like hang out unless we just yell at the screen?
your next regular meeting will be, we're already into March. Yeah. So March 6th. So that's all that I have.
Anything else you want to add to the calendar? Okay, I gotta close the meeting at, oh, good lord, what's?
8:30.
8:32 PM. I am so sorry, I'm gonna go home to bed.
Come on, get it.
Sorry, my teenage daughter picked up items yesterday, dude.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
I was